Hello, and welcome to the Way We Grow podcast, where we have interviews with people about their cannabis story, their journey with cannabis, and what led them to cannabis cultivation. So today we have Tucan Sam. He's a home grower, a seed tester. He's also a pheno hunter, and above all else, he's a family man. And so, Sam, how are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to have you. So what's new in your grow world? Like, what have you been doing lately? What have you been, perhaps, what seeds have you been popping? What have you been, testing lately?
Well, recently I've been going down a cap junkie wormhole. So it's been a lot of cap junkie crosses. And what I'm trying to do is find something that I like and F to it, and just kind of breed it out that way. More for curiosity's sake, not, I'm just kind of going off the cuff, but, what I'm doing right now and just kind of still pheno hunting and testing different things. But right now it's mostly like cap junkie, got a few Mac crosses in there. So pretty much going down that stuff. That's what I like. So
Nice. Have you ran, like just the straight cap junkie before?
I haven't. I've always had the flower. One of my buddies who kind of put me onto growing, he used to grow it a lot. So I would pick it up from him and it was phenomenal.
Okay.
Um, I've grown out different crosses from it, and it's always been something that I've kind of liked. So my buddy Flamethrower hooked me up with some maybe like 100 or so beans. So I've been running through some crosses. It's been fun.
Nice. That's awesome. Is that his like genetics label or flamethrower or
Purple
is
Flamethrower, yeah, that's one of my
nice?
pals on Instagram. You should check him out. He
I
does a
will.
lot of different work, but he knew that was kind of what was up my alley. He was like, "Yo, try this. I'm not into it, but I know you are." And I ran a couple,
Okay.
and I'm like, "Whoa!" Then I ran a couple more, and then so wait a minute, you might actually been right, buddy.
Are
So
they all female? Are they femmes? Or are they
no, it's
no?
reg seeds. So
Cool.
I'm looking through the males too, chopping down a lot, but every once in a while, every 1 in 5 or 10, you find that nice one that you just have to keep around and do something with.
What
So,
what makes it nice for you?
um, once I figure out that it's a male, just that it goes through a lot of abuse. I might throw it out of the tent for a couple days. I might not water it with the rest. I might skip a couple waterings just to really beat it up. Just to if it bounces back and just is still the top of the tent, then I know, all right, that's something I want to stick around with. Structure wise, it can stand up on its own. Um, Stem rub and all that stuff. I don't know if that's everything. A lot of different opinions on that, but I mostly go just on structure, how vigorous it is, how much abuse it can take.
For sure. I mean, those are like pretty much the exact same things that I look for in a male. Like just stress testing it, making sure that it doesn't throw a bunch of nuts like while it's in veg.
Sure.
The structure on it, like keeping the plant like upright without having to put any support on it while it's growing for months and months in the same small 1 gallon or two
Yeah.
gallon pot, and like having the ability to do like multiple prunings on it without it causing too much stress for it to throw a bunch of nuts either. Like, yeah, I think that you're spot on with a lot of those.
And the last thing is when you flower it, some of the ones they might look good, and then you flower it, and it's just like not nutsy. Let's say it's not too many
For sure.
sacks, or they're you want them clustered.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Tight like a flower structure as like in
Mhm.
a for the female, right?
Right. So you go through a lot of males. You feel bad tossing them, but has to be done.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like you probably go through more females. I feel like sometimes the males, you're just kind of like, you either just are keeping a bunch of them around
Right,
or you
right.
just like toss them
Ex-
all right away and
exactly.
maybe keep one.
That's how it has to be, or you're gonna end up with a male factory. Real,
Exactly.
pollen's gonna be everywhere. It's gonna be as Rasta Jeff says, it's gonna be a Maury Povich. Who's the daddy? And you don't want
Yeah,
you don't want
you don't
that.
want that. No, and then you start to get good at like just noticing the structure of the plant and the leaf morphology and overall vigor and stuff, and you're just like, oh, I can pick them out, pretty early just to at least give it a potential try. Because I feel like unless you're doing something where you're introducing like ethylene to the flowering cycle of the male and trying to promote some sort of like trichome production or other like XX characteristic productions like with calyxes or bracts at the inner nodes and stuff, then you're not really going to know the full like potential for it when it is introduced to like a female population and what their like progeny is going to bring to the table until you do the whole process. And sometimes that's just it's tedious.
100%, man. Shout out to the guys who are doing that stuff. That they're way smarter than me. I'm just keeping it simple.
Yeah. What's some of the favorite things that you've crossed together, then grown out and found something that you were like, wow, that's really cool. Like I didn't think that would even come from it.
Um, a few meat breath crosses. One of the ones, a white truffle with meat breath. The problem is if I get a herm every now and then, I'm not too angry about it. And in fact, like if in the right spot, I could be juiced. I might really fit like, oh, nice. I might get a little, but I know people don't want that. So certain things that if I notice it starts to herm frequently, I'll nix it. And some of the white truffle crosses that I did early on are really good. Um, but like I said, there were herm stuff, and then I'd grow some of the herm. Like, wow, that's also really good. One time it hermed onto a mac, and I grew the cross, and that was phenomenal. White truffle mac, because mac, when you try on your own, it'll deny you right off the bat. You failed pollinations, but
Mm,
sometimes with a herm, it just does its thing, and you get seeds, and it's like, wow, how'd that
that's really
happen?
weird.
You know? So
That's really weird. I wonder if there's anything to that genetically, because it's. I'm pretty sure Mac is considered like a triploid, where it doesn't
yeah,
have. It's not supposed to be able to accept pollen. So,
dude.
like, I wonder if there is some potential for like if you get a herm pollen, right, then you're getting an XX chromosome in the pollen, and I wonder if there's anything to that allows it to enter it. Like I don't know. Again, like you said, that's for smarter people to figure out. I really don't know
No, that
how that could be, but it's interesting, and there's got to be something there. Like I
yeah,
feel
like
like
I
nature happens, but for the most part, you can usually be able to like if you know all the modes of action and how everything is interacting, then you can usually be like, oh, this causes this, causes this, causes this. But I don't know with this one. That's really fascinating, though.
yeah, I definitely think that's it'll probably be discovered, in the future as it gets more legalized and more research is done, Big
Yeah,
Ag starts jumping in more and more, so there'll
for
be an
sure. I
answer
mean,
probably soon.
and Big Ag has some big money for breeding and genetics, so yeah,
Sure.
that's a huge potential.
And I'm sure that's going to be part of it, locking down things and, keeping it proprietary and whatever else. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, so I'm gonna jump into a couple questions just
sure.
to keep the flow of this going the way I want. But what was your first experience growing any type of plant, not necessarily cannabis?
My first experience it was actually a cactus, a pencil cactus, from my grandma. She was a
Nice.
big green thumb. Uh, Tried to pass it to my mom, and I just remember her coming over for Christmas or whatever, and she would go on a rampage, in her Jamaican accent about how, my mom would be killing plants and she's always doing this and doing that. How terrible. And then so finally my grandma comes to me and she's like, well, all you have to do is, I'm like, all right. So I start taking care of this little cactus one day, and next thing you know, it's a big bush. I'm like, wow, all I did was
Wow.
water it, literally. Just add
What
water
was
every now and then.
what was Grandma's advice?
Just water it. She was old school. She's always collecting eggshells and orange peels. And I always used to think, Grandma, come on, that really, you're putting that in the plants? Like, that, that doesn't do anything. but she was convinced. She knew her stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, she'd put orange peels, eggshells in the top, like crush them up and just leave them at the top.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a trick I still use now. I still use my banana peels and my eggshells. So, but to answer your
Do you,
question, it was a pencil cactus.
that's really cool. Do you use those in like the form of like a worm bin or composting now, or do you just use them as like a top dress for your like for
For the
your
eggshells, I'll roast them in the air fryer for probably about 20 minutes, crush them up in the blender, and then I'll add those to my soil bins.
Okay.
That's basically the soil that's just cooking, waiting to be mixed. I'll sprinkle that
Okay.
on top. I have like a power drill, and I just mix it in real good. With the banana peels, I roast those, but that's more used for top dress and teas.
Okay.
Pretty big on using teas and things like that. So
For sure. Well, I mean, like let's kind of get into that. So what is your grow style? Like how do you grow?
I'm a Synganic grower for sure.
Okay.
I like organic. I like keeping it simple. Get your dry amendments. It's renewable. You're eating bananas, eggs, all the time. So using that type of stuff, but always having those. Or I always keep some jacks. Keep some with a botanic hair on tap just in case something hits the fan. Maybe every 2 to 3 weeks. Um, you throw in a little fertilizer in there just to juice things up a little. Not even if
For
it
sure.
not even if it's showing deficiency per se, but if it is for sure. But even if it's been like, wow, it's been a couple weeks. Let me top dress. Let me throw some fertilizer in there. It's like a treat, you know.
So, but when you say that, are you like adding both like organic top dressings as well as then like watering in the fertilizers to kind of like bridge the gap before the organics become available, or like what is your
Right. Well, I top dress um, maybe once a month,
okay,
so that's on schedule. No matter if it's fertilizer or not, it's getting that top dress just to keep
okay,
that soil. Well, when it's in the flower tent, I'm giving it Flower Girl, Dr. Earth. It's the flower bloom formula.
is that a dry amendment or
Dry amendment, yeah.
okay,
hmm
cool,
I have that mixed with roasted banana peels, and I just kind of add that every
nice,
month and keep things going. But daily, I use teas. I have the air bubblers,
okay.
and I stick them in the 1 gallon jugs. 4 gallons for my flower tent every other day is what I have it down to.
Wow,
So,
how long
hmm,
do you brew them for?
24 hours.
Okay, so
So
that
I
okay,
stick the little nozzle in there, add the teas on top, a little sugar. Um, Depending on, I use the clear jugs for flour and uh, they're white. My boys drink a lot of milk, so they're like white jugs for
for sure,
the ones that are green. So anything that's green, it's getting stuff in the white. Anything that's just flour only, it's going to be mostly water, aerated water, a little bit of banana peel, but mostly just that water. Um,
okay.
and so that's how I just keep them rolling. Bubble them and then set it and forget it.
Oh, excuse me.
And I think that's the thing about organics that, it gives you that things can work behind the scenes. You get those microbes bubbling. Just let it sit for 24 hours. It's working that whole 24 hours. You're just doing your regular life. Come back, water, and it seems to be doing all right.
Nice. I mean, all your flowers on Instagram are great, and for
I
all the
appreciate that.
listeners, I'll definitely have Tucan Sam's Instagram in the description, but it's at Tucan Sam on Instagram. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Cool.
Toucan_Sam, something like that.
All right. So with your grow setup, do you I if I remember correctly, you were using both like HPS and LED in one
Yeah,
tent setup to get like the different terpene expressions from the different wavelengths, like the different light qualities.
Yeah,
Is that still what you're doing?
absolutely, definitely.
Do you want to
Um,
explain your like philosophy behind that a little bit?
well, sure. It's twofold. It's practical for one. You might say, well, it's practical. I grow in a basement. The grow space is like the afterthought of my house. Everything else was put in nice and it's like, all right, where can I put a tent? All right, there's a spot in the boiler room that's been cold and forgotten about. Here, you can have this area.
Yeah,
So it's cold down there. In the winter, you need that HPS.
for
When
sure.
that thing's not on, it's 60 degrees down there. As soon as it cranks up, the veg tent starts heating up, everything starts heating up. So I have a 4x4, and it's a 600-watt HPS and a um, Mars Hydro SP3000. It's like a
Okay.
300-watt bar. So it's probably a little overpowered light for the space, but you know, it's it's not too bad. I think
Is
it
the
works.
six is the
Hmm?
600-watt dimmable?
No,
No. Okay. But the Mars Hydro you can dim.
it is dimmable. Yeah, it is dimmable. I
Yeah.
keep them both on full blast. I'm that
Okay.
type of guy. I'll PP whatever light blast, PPFD. People sometimes try to stay within a range. I just kind of let it rip 100%. All the time, and the plants kind of get used to it. I feel like if you're consistently one way, the plants will just adjust, and or they won't. You'll have those strains that are just like roasted, and occasionally I'll post them the roasted tops.
Yeah,
But everything under those roasted tops are going to be like rock hard. You could beat someone with the nugs. They're going to be so thick.
for
So,
sure. We've even in the like commercial space, we'll sometimes say, if you sacrifice a couple of those very tippy tops, everything below it is, and
whew,
everything below it is perfect. Then it's like, well, that means you're maxing out the PPFD across most of the canopy. And if you have a couple of hot spots, that's one. It's probably better. It's probably like the overall yield is going to be better because if you have no like extremely hot spots, that means that there's definitely going to be parts of the canopy that are below the ideal level as well.
right, right. You're not pushing it to that limit.
Yeah.
So,
And it correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of do like a perpetual flower
yes.
tent. So like you're never really shutting it down unless you do and you pull things out and clean it or
I
like
only, yeah, well, yeah, right. That's how it should be, as I clean it every 3 months or what would be great. But, typically that thing only gets emptied when it's catastrophic failure involved. Something goes haywire and I have to take everything out or whatever else because it's probably about I don't want to get too detailed, but it's a decent amount of plants in there.
no
And
I
it's
yeah
every Monday I try to clip 2 to 3 plants, so it's constantly trying to overfill the space. Is it a mix? And I also run a lot of regular seeds from testers and things, so it's constantly not wanting to give too much light to unproven, like because it could be a male. You don't want to put
right
them on Front Street, so it's constantly managing like what needs the light and what doesn't. But
for sure.
it's a labor of love. I like to do it. It's like therapy. It's yoga. So
I, I totally feel that. I do definitely love it as well. It's like it's kind of being zen, being in the garden. I like it.
right,
Yeah.
you know.
What so just because this is where my mind always goes to when I hear perpetual growing, what are your like IPM practices?
Okay.
Yeah,
Um.
because for me that was like it's one of the biggest things, at least in a commercial space, where having a perpetual grow, like say in a greenhouse where you have, let's say 5 or 6 rows, and you're like swapping one row out every 10 or 14 days, so you're like harvesting one and moving one in, and like that. I always am like, how if you are spraying, how are you not getting overdrift? If you're not spraying, how are you like are you running beneficials or so sorry, I'm rambling, but please explain. I would love to hear how
No,
you
I
like
I
your
think
philosophy.
I think that is the Achilles heel of the perpetual grow. My dad is always telling me, "Shut it down! Come on, you gotta," because he runs segments and everything else. So that is the Achilles heel, and it did take me a while to figure out. But it's two things. It's you can either it's like a steel fortress. You can create that steel fortress. If something gets in, God help you, you know. But if you just keep a steel fortress, then nothing can get in. And for a while, that's what I did. But as any grower, you get cocky, you get clones, you have buddies who want to send you these things, and lo and behold, I got spider mites, I got thrips. It was hell. I didn't know what to. Fungus gnat. Well, fungus gnats is the only thing that I still haven't defeated those bastards. Once in a while, you'll see them floating around, but IPM, I've started doing, and I've defeated all those, so to speak. Haven't seen anything. Haven't seen any signs in probably about a year and a half. But you know, it's about spraying. Every other watering, I'm spraying. I spray the base, like the soil level.
Hmm.
I get the basically just and I skirt the plant, so that first 3-4 inches of the plant is just all stem. So I spray the base and the stem, and that's
Okay.
where I focus on, and that's how I can spray in flower and whatever else, because I'm spraying straight to the base of the plant.
What are
Um,
you spraying?
I use Dr. Bronner's, the
Okay.
peppermint, the oil. I use that mixed with Lost Coast.
Okay. Nice.
Um, and that also, the final icing on the cake is the alcohol level. If there's nothing going on, I may not add alcohol. But if there are fungus gnats popping up, then I'll put a little alcohol in there to spice it up for them.
Okay.
Um,
Have
and
you
prevent.
um
Mhm.
have you ever tried nematodes?
I have, yeah. I've
Okay.
tried nematodes. It helps. Don't get me wrong, it does help. But man, these fungus gnats. I don't know what I must have the African fungus gnats. They hunt us.
Oh my gosh.
Um, they defeat anything. I've literally, done the nematodes, the DE. I have mosquito bits at every. That's what I found is most effective. Mosquito bits, nematodes. It's just, sand. I've tried play sand. You need everything. You literally
Yeah.
need to combo punch them to slow them down. That's the only thing that it's like they just don't go away because I have so much organic soil. It always has to be somewhat wet. I can
Yeah.
never just say, you know what, bone dry everything, because
For
then
sure.
things will get real unhappy. So
Are you
that's the only.
using are you using plastic pots or fabric pots?
I use fabric pots, and that's
For
another
sure.
headache. So
Yeah.
it's keeping everything somewhat moist because now I don't want to get hydrophobic and then everything's a mess. So that is the that is my everyone has their cross to bear, and it could be worse than fungus gnats. I got stickies everywhere, and that's just what you got to do. More stickies,
More
more
stickies.
more mosquito bits.
Yep.
But they're harmless relatively. They're just annoying and they ruin pictures. That's the most important thing. They ruin good
You're getting
photos.
them out of the fucking buds.
Yeah, what a pain. But
Yeah. No, I
that's at the worst of times. Now it's just once in a while I fly around. So
for sure. I mean, like smoking outdoor, you're gonna not only be smoking some fungus gnats and some bugs and
oh yeah, it's
beetles,
gonna
but
be
you're also
worse.
smoking dust and dirt and anything else that was kicked up in the air.
Sure,
So,
you got spiders thinking that's their hangout spot. All kinds of
yep,
things.
a bunch of spider silk, spider web all over your buds.
Yeah,
Uh, so I guess yeah, a couple of fungus gnats aren't the worst thing. I don't. I would say protein, but we're not eating it.
I don't know if you need that in your lungs, but hey, it's a study for another day.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe you gotta see the impacts of fungus gnat combustion. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, in my pictures you always see fresh yellow tapes around just to I think those are good at catching them, but it's also good at finding out when things are really kicking around.
For sure. And also if you're like dealing with fungus gnats and or root aphids, they look like the flyers can look very similar if you're just catching them out of the corner of your eye. But if you like have them on the sticky trap, then you can definitely identify the difference between the two. So it's yeah, I think that sticky traps are pretty clutch, not only for catching them, but for identifying for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So you mentioned earlier that your dad, was giving you some suggestions on being like, "Hey, clean out the tent," and it sounds like he might grow as well. So I want to steer the conversation just back a little bit and be like, "So who did you learn to grow from?"
Yeah, funny enough, he never told me that he grew. He was always a stickler about me not smoking.
Okay,
So, but basically his rationale was he wanted me to find my own path. He didn't want me to be swayed by anything that he did or whatever else.
okay,
So but he's an old school type of grower. He's not caring about humidity. He's gotten more into it since I've gotten into it, and I've kind of re-inspired him to get his tent going again. But he
okay.
told me stories about having tents when I was in high school. I'm like, dude, there's no way. He's like, I'll
That's
show
so
you. And then he
funny.
brought me back, and then he opened this little closet that I thought, because he's an avid gunsman, so
Okay.
I thought it was a gun safe. It was a
Oh,
freaking tent that he had,
that's so
all
funny.
coil papered out. And he's like, you never smelled anything? I'm like, dude, if I would have smelled something, I would have thought it was me, and I would have lost my head, and I would have started cleaning up, and no telling what I would have done.
Oh, that's
But
so funny.
so
I
yeah, he grew a little bit, but
That's so funny because when I was growing up, my parents had this like shop shed, like kind of like a lean-to shed with like the clear corrugated plastic on one side, but it was like that opaque green stuff that
right, right,
was kind of ubiquitous for a while back in like the 90s.
uh huh,
And my brother and I weren't allowed in there, but every summer we always said that the skunks got really bad because living in California at the time, we would just skunks all the time, but especially in spring because that's like when they're mating and whatnot. You get like so many skunk smells, but then like in summer we would get a lot of skunk smells right near the house, and my parents would always be like, "Oh, be careful if you go outside, watch for skunks so you don't get sprayed." And and then after a while they told me that they had like a little tiny grow in there, and it was like just like a little greenhouse mini grow, and it was
nice.
just enough for my dad because he was using it for like essential tremor and stuff. And I was like, after I learned that, I was like, what the fuck? I had no idea. I just thought that we had skunks all the time, and I was like, just, of course, young and naive.
Nah, that's funny, man. That's how it is. Like you don't
Yeah.
question it until you get older, maybe, or they tell you something. They can tell you anything.
Yep.
So
But so if since your dad didn't tell you, but was growing, so where did you kind of like get your inspiration to start growing cannabis? Because it sounds like you started with a cactus, and where did it go to from there?
it started with a cactus, and then it was going on eBay for trying to buy cannabis seeds on eBay. You had to use
Okay.
secret codes. It was like it was written in like certain descriptions, and so I bought some White Widow quote unquote seeds, and I was in an apartment at the time. Um, so I'm like, all right, I'll just grow it, veg it inside, and then I'll throw it outside and it'll flower, and I'll worry about it then. But I don't have to worry about the smell until flower.
Okay.
So I hooked up a little setup in my office desk, and I'm vegging it out, and things just start stinking. Next thing I know, I'm like, wait, is that me? I'm like, no, that's just I'm just being paranoid. Then I'm like, wait, no, it really smells. Like, how's this possible? Obviously, I know things can smell in veg,
Hmm.
but so that was kind of my first, just curiosity. Just wanting to grow cannabis. I've grown other like potted plants, but not really cared for something. Typically, with a potted plant, you water it when you remember, and it's kind of like, yeah, nice, all right, great. But to like have an attachment to like, oh shit, this is important. Can't screw this up. Can't screw this up.
Yeah.
It was that desk White Widow. I ended up throwing it outside. Got way too smelly, way too big. So then I had to start growing tomatoes to mask the herbs that I had going on. So I
Yeah.
started growing tomatoes in front of it, and it was just the whole thing. Um,
And this was just at some apartment in New York.
in Queens, yeah, my first apartment. So my
That's
landlord, he's some,
awesome.
he's a nice Jewish man, but he definitely wouldn't be down with any
No.
type of funny business like that. So that's why I had
Wow.
to grow the garden, and wow, what a nice garden! Like, yeah, yeah, things are
Oh
growing great.
man. So he was
But
right there, like he saw the tomatoes growing at least.
he saw the tomatoes growing, and then I had to make a cage because the buds just would not stay down. So I just had to tie them down, at all costs.
Oh,
And then
so like almost making like a scrog to
exactly
keep it
an
lower to the
early
ground.
scrog, right?
Oh, that's so funny.
So
I mean, from what I've heard, that's some of the first uses of scrogging for outdoor plants is just to keep them below the fence line. So,
yeah, and it
yeah,
worked.
I
It,
mean
it, it worked wonders. I couldn't believe how well it was going. So
that's
that's what
crazy.
kind of really just got me going. But
How
obviously,
how many
that
years
first
ago was that?
man, that's going back maybe 8, 9 years of at this time. Um,
Wow.
so it was a
Do you
while
really think
ago.
that your landlord didn't know?
I I'm not sure. I took a lot of great pains to, but when you think about things and you think back on it, like there's no way that smell. It was, and then once I clipped it, it's like, all right, where do I? He might have just thought I just was smoking at the time.
For sure.
Maybe he didn't think it was growing, but he knew something was going on because now once I clipped it, I couldn't
hmm
put it anywhere. It's just like the smell just kept getting worse and worse. So
where, how did you dry it? Like in the apartment?
I first attempted to dry it. I had a grill at the time, and under the grill there's like that little space. So I
Sure.
made like a little in the thick of the night. I went out and made like a fishing line, and I
Okay.
hung it up, and I did this whole setup. But eventually, I said, "All right, this is not working," and I made edibles with it.
Okay.
Brought it inside, and I just started cooking it down. I was like, "All right, I just got to cook this up, and hopefully
I mean,
that."
even
They
the
they
cooking
was
is
good.
going to be smelly as fuck.
It was smelly, man. It
Yeah.
was it was definitely a rough week and a half experimenting, but it was a good experience. In the end, now I look back on it, how silly I was, but I wasn't on Instagram then. It was
Oh,
kind of
okay.
yeah. I thought Instagram was for kids back then. I'm an old school guy. I thought, oh my god, Instagram, please. So it was a whole new world once I started Instagram. It was like literally the lights turned on. Like, holy, I've been doing this in the dark the whole time. Literally just feeling around. Oh, this
Yeah.
seems right. All right. Once I got to Instagram, I realized all the things I did wrong, so it was a pretty good experience learning, just on your own. I got to make mistakes and do stupid things, but, you know,
I mean, that's such a great story though for like a first time grow. Like not only like you were able to even get it successfully harvested, but then just I feel like it's one of those lessons that so many growers now are like I people like me, and I'm sure even like yourself, if people have asked you for help, you're telling them make sure that you have a good drying space, like
yeah,
and don't wait until you harvest to figure out where you're going to dry your bud or how you're going to dry it,
it's not
because
sexy. That's not a sexy answer.
it's
It's like,
not, and it's
what?
the
Huh?
most important part. Like
Exactly.
you can take mediocrely grown weed and give it a really nice dry and cure and have it be something that you're proud to smoke and share. But you can also have a stellar grow, like, no bugs, no molds, everything's frosted out, you made it grow just the way you wanted it, and then you put it you know, in
Throw it under your
non-ideal
grill.
conditions, throw it under your grill. And yeah, you're gonna suffer the consequences, unfortunately. But so like when was your first successful harvest, where you took everything all the way to flower, harvested it, dried it, cured
That
it, and then consumed?
that was the first harvest I ever did was an outdoor when I first got
Okay.
my house.
Okay.
So the first thing I did before the house, just as the house was set up, I got the backyard, got a greenhouse from Amazon, threw a greenhouse up, and that was that. That was soup to nuts, and I was getting seeds off of, I think, Seedsman. I'd upgraded from Amazon to the Great Seedsman, or what other funky things did they have? Cropseeds.com, or the websites that come with the grow guides and all the
Sure.
colorful. All you have to do is this. I didn't know about white label or this and that. I thought I'm like, wow, they have this online. Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So I grew some autoflower, whatever, and it was okay. It was okay. It had all the names that were appropriate, the OG whatever, but I know now that it was just white label, you know. But it was good. I actually was able to, and I had a lot of it. I was able to parlay that into my indoor tent. I went online and I looked for different ads of people selling stuff, and I was like, "Hey, listen, you want to trade for some bud?" And I actually built my indoor setup through,
Through
through
outdoor
doing that.
bud trades.
hmm Yeah, through
Wow.
my
How many
first
how many
greenhouse
harvests did
run.
it take you to get to building up your grow?
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, so like were you able to trade enough from one harvest
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get your grow
yeah.
started? Oh wow. All
I
right.
was able enough to trade. It was one summer's, basically like a summer's worth of work.
For sure.
And I just had so much. I never expect, I never, I
Were
just,
this with the autoflowers or
these were autoflowers. These were photo periods. It
okay.
was a mix. But all grown in like 5 gallon pots outside. So
In this greenhouse?
greenhouse, yeah.
Wow.
Some were green, some in the greenhouse, some I grew, just uncovered along the side of the house. I think, I was kind of crazy. I just moved in my house and I started this. Someone asked me, like, shouldn't you ease into it? I said, nah, you got to let them know what to expect from day one, baby. I don't
That's
want
so
to,
funny.
you set the expectations at X and it's all down from here. You know what I mean? You don't want to start like, oh, it's only one plant he's going to grow. It's like,
For
oh,
sure.
let us know who we have from Jump Street. There are some skunks shouldering a lot of heavy load in my neighborhood. I'll tell you that much.
That's funny. Yeah, the heavy load of the blame.
Oh yeah, but
So you, so I mean, it sounds like you were a consumer far before you were a grower. Is that correct to
definitely,
say? Okay,
definitely,
and
definitely.
so like, what was your first experience smoking then?
That was with my buddies back in high school. We had this buddy. We all had. I went to a private school, so a couple of my buddies had real strict parents.
Okay,
But one of my buddies who drove, his dad would work late on Mondays. So every Monday night it became like a tradition. We'd meet up, we'd sneak out of the house by any, you know, means necessary. And I think this was maybe senior year of high school. And every Monday, man, we just smoke bud and have a good time and always look forward to Mondays. Everyone bitching about Mondays. We could not wait for Mondays to roll around. All
that's
we had to do
great.
was go to school and soon we'd be high.
That's
So
great.
that's kind of how it started for us.
And
Well,
then, so like what, like with your first grow where you went to get those white widow seeds, what inspired you to grow? Like, was it just something where you wanted to, like, you were like, well, I know that this flower comes from some plant, so I might as well figure out what that plant's about, or did somebody like, did you see somebody growing and be like, oh shit, I can do this myself, or yeah,
I
what inspired you?
in the midst of buying one time. Now at this point I'm on Wall Street. I'm meeting with all kinds of different guys. Now these are guys in suits. So for me, when a guy's in a suit, when you're in a suit, it's just a level. At the time, this is how I thought of it. You're a level of expertise, privilege, this, that. You wouldn't be smoking weed. You would grow weed. So one time I'm this executive. He's, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey guys, you guys are young. Come check this out. Pulls us over to one of his closets. We were in the midst of buying weed, and he caught wind of it, and he's like, "Oh, you want to buy some weed, huh?" check this out. Opens up a just the most innocent looking closet, and blinding light comes out of nowhere. I'm just like, what is that? Like, literally, what are you doing? And it was just a closet full of lights, and at the bottom of these little plants. I'm like, what is? He's like, oh, I'm gonna grow this and that, and this is what it's gonna turn into. And then he shows me. I'm like, oh wow, serious? It's like, yeah. I'm like, wait, you grow? He's like, yeah. Why not? And so that's when, I always knew as soon as I got my house, I want to try it. I want to do it. And at that time, the prices this was right before New York went legal.
Okay.
So the prices were through the roof. We were paying those. And, it was either I was going to grow and get it that way, or, I was going to have to stop smoking as much. Something was going to have to give. And so I decided to, give it a hack.
What were you paying at the time?
Man, 300-400 for an ounce,
Oh my
500
God.
for an ounce. When you start feeling fancy, want the stuff that breaks apart when you
Yeah.
600. Like some of the prices for an ounce, I'm almost embarrassed. Like, wait, that can't be real. It was real. Like,
What were the names you were paying for?
the
Because I
the
feel like that's the thing.
runts.
Oh my
You were
God.
going after the the cookies, whatever. Oh, the fake Mylars were oh man, those Mylars. We'd get so many of those little blue
Oh my
cookie
God.
Mylars and Gary Paytons, and like, oh, bring me all of that stuff. But it was just a lot of names, whatever. But I didn't discriminate. I wanted it all. I didn't run into one batch that I didn't like. So for me,
Sure.
it's like I just, and I guess I'm lucky in that sense. Some people don't like Girl Scout cookies. Oh, it makes me feel a certain way. And, that to me is terrible. Imagine, that's so unfortunate. I smoke it and it's great. I
It's
can smoke
such a
that and
good
that's
weed.
great too. Yeah. I think everything is kind of good. So it's like, yes, you have preferences, but at the end of the day, it's like, what sex is bad sex exactly? Just the one that I'm not having, that's the real answer. So,
I can dig that answer.
yeah, so
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, I totally agree. I feel like sometimes it's like the bandwagon effect almost for some of the hatred that some of these different strains get and whatnot. And it's like I don't know if it's warranted, like based on the actual flower itself. I think it's more about like the culture and what specific people are saying about it, and what in group they're part of that's being like, yeah, F this or F that, or we give our seal of approval to this or to that. And
yeah,
yeah.
because like as a grower, there's so many different factors that come into it. Like, oh, you didn't like that? Oh, well, how was it grown? When was it pulled? When was it? It's like huh? Who? Huh? It's like the normal person. Ah, that sucks. Well, was it too? You have more questions because anything could have happened to that particular batch. Was it a pheno thing? Was it a cut? Oh, what cut was it? I don't know. What the fuck you mean cut? It was just,
Dude, it could even come down to like which one of your buddies rolled the blunt, and was it rolled correctly, or did it fucking run and you were just like, this is bullshit, I didn't even get high.
exactly. And the weed's
And they're
taken.
like, yeah, cookies sucks, doesn't even burn right.
It always wets the tip of the joint. That cookies. Yeah,
Yeah, why the fuck is my joint always wet when I'm smoking cookies with so and so? It's it's
that
the
burner.
cookies for
He's a
sure.
crook.
Yeah. That's funny. That's funny. Misassociating, who's to blame?
Yeah.
Well, so throughout your growing experiences, what was one of the times where you look back at and it was like one of your biggest learning experiences, whether it be due to like let's maybe ask it in two ways. So like, what was your biggest learning experience due to a setback, and then what was your biggest learning experience due to success?
Biggest learning experience due to a setback. That would be letting in the bugs. that was my own fault. You just don't know. I took in clones from outside, like from friends or whatever, but I also literally took in clones from outside. I took in clones from my greenhouse,
Yep.
and I thought what I know now was not a thorough IPM at the time. I'm like, oh, there's no way a bug could last through this. It's cold water I'm splashing on the thing. It's like, dude, did you put oil? Did you sulfur? Did you? Oh, you just ran water over it? Oh, great. So getting spider mites, defeating those things, it was tough because Perpetual, I'd think I got it, and then it would sneak around somehow, and I'd find them again. So that was, and I lost cuts. That was a big one. That was my first you think the world is gonna end. Oh, my grow, it's ruined, finished, and now it's
I've
like a
seen it
blip
ruin
on
a
the
lot of
radar.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really, not to say I was going to stop growing, but I was really demoralized
Yeah.
at one point over spider mites. I think about it now, like who cares about spider mites? Just
Yes.
strip
Spider mites
and
are no big deal.
spray them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy what like a bad infestation will do to the morale of a grower. Like, I don't know if you've ever dealt with root aphids before, but man,
no,
oh, it is just so depressing to deal with because, like, not only do they just make a mess because they grow and repopulate so fast, and like they like stain all your trays, and you gotta, it takes like multiple cleaning cycles to get the stains removed from their just dead bodies, and you gotta wash the trays down every day if you don't want it to build up. And they like they can sometimes become I don't know the term, but they'll basically go from just being something that's in the soil, to where they'll climb up into the canopy and start to repopulate there as well. So you start to just have like actual aphid problems where it's like you got honeydew on all your leaves and on
oh
some of
my
your
goodness,
buds, and they'll like crawl into the nooks and crannies. And oh, they are, and they're so hard to get rid of because they burrow way into like fungus gnats. Like they're just, once you have them, like it's almost like impossible to completely eradicate them. And so yeah, if you haven't dealt with root aphids, for all the listeners and for you as well, Sam, I would never wish that on my worst enemy. It is by far my least favorite pest to deal with. That or thrips, because thrips can just if you have like hops latent virate or something, and if it's like at a low threshold of pressure, it'll explode the pressure in like no time flat.
yeah. I think everyone should have an experience with pests, Jim. Just to give you that chink in your armor, just to give you that tool in your belt.
It does
Um,
make you more resilient.
yeah, I remember at the time I thought that I wore that as a badge of honor. I've never had any bugs. Like it was saying, like, yeah, you haven't been growing that long, pal. So,
Yep.
and
If you say
it'll
my
happen.
new spot has never had bugs and it's been that way for 5 years, then I'm going to be like, damn, you have really good IPM
Right,
practices.
exactly. You've learned, you've burned, and you've implemented.
Yep.
Not to say you've never experienced. Then it's like, all right, just if anything
Yeah.
hits you, it's gonna topple you like bricks.
Yeah. Because if you don't,
So
because like there's such a huge like variety of weapons in your arsenal for IPM, but they all have like different targeted approaches and different targeted applications,
sure.
that if you don't know, it's, I don't have a good analogy for it, but
Or like when you're using the oil, you can't use the oil with certain sprays, or you'll burn
yeah,
the hell out of the leaves.
yeah, not like
If you
no
never
sulfur, no oil
exactly.
together. Yep, absolutely. And
So I'm dipping them in sulfur and then spraying them with oil. What the hell's going on here?
yeah,
I'm
and then
not
if
using
you
it.
if you do get a new product, right, it shows you like application per acre in a lot of cases, and you're looking at that as a direction and be like, how the what what is an what how do I convert 10, what is the acre to tent conversion ratio. You know, like it
That's
doesn't.
when you
It
rub your chin 2 times and you say, I guess I'll use a little bit.
Yeah, I
Dip.
guess I'll use a little bit. Hopefully it works. But then even there, like I don't know if you've listened to any of the stuff by like Suzanne Wainwright Evans, I believe is her name. She's like the bug lady on
Mm.
Instagram, and she's been on like the Kiss Organics podcast a few times, and she has I like through listening to her, I've heard like you have to there's a reason why things have certain application rates, because if you go over, then in some cases it might not work, if you go under, in a lot of cases it won't work, and then if you're also going over, then you have like the phytotoxicity potentials within the plants where they'll just burn and melt and turn into a brown spotty mess of decaying plant matter.
Oh, yeah.
And you got to get it like just right, just so it like is just enough to affect the target pest, but not enough to burn the plant, and not too little to not do anything and just waste products. So that's I. It is unfortunate that a lot of the most effective products only have these sort of like industrial applications in their like how they perceive their
And
usage is going to be.
sure, and I'm sure once they're marketing for a legal product and not a quote unquote illegal, then it'll make a lot more sense for them to do it for a 5 gallon size, as opposed to, all right, do this per half acre, and it'll make more sense. Right now, I guess it's in limbo land or whatever, but and certain
Oh,
companies are doing it, but they're also the ones gouging you probably the most at this point. The ones that are
for
taking the
sure.
risk, and any can of product I already know is going to be charging you a nice premium.
Exactly. And that's also I feel like that's such an issue, because there's so many things out there, especially when it comes to like fertilizers or pesticides or herbicides, or even like just like in different like environmental control equipment that are all used in different industries, and all have like pretty cheap versions that are still of decently high quality. Like fertilizers comes to mind with that, where like buying a bottled fertilizer that has water mixed into it, you're paying for like the shipping cost of that water, and you're paying for the branding and the logo
Mm-hmm.
that has the different cannabis related scheme to it. And it you can get like the same thing at any like major ag supply in a 50-pound bag that's going to last you probably your entire life if you're just a home grower. And it's the 50-pound bag costs the same as the 1 quart bottle at the hydro store.
It's insane. It's literally insane. But you
Yeah,
live and you learn. And hey, it ain't tricking if you got it. If you want to do it all simple and easy, and it's cost effective for you. I mean, I guess it's cool. It makes sense. But when
for
you're
sure.
doing it always, all the time, perpetual, 3 years from now, you're still going to be growing. That's when you start to think, all right, why don't I get the biggest size they have? Why don't I go right to the factory, look at the ingredients? It makes more sense from that. Some people, I guess, get into it and they don't know if they're going to be doing it in 6 months. So they
Yep.
just kind of buy the bottles. I've been there. That's why I started with, the Fox Farm,
Oh, the
the
Fox Farm
Trio.
Trio, man.
Oh
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
that was it. Buying bottles and bottles. I'm like, all right, what's up with this? What is this Jax?
Yeah.
One of the guys that I learned from, he's Jack. I'm like, what is this Jax? Wow, it's a lot cheaper. Wow, this will last me a long time.
So
So
so who did teach you like kind of like your cannabis growing style, or like where did you
uh,
develop that from?
it was. Remember, I had a aversion to Instagram. I don't know what I thought at the time, but I don't know. So I ended up joining Facebook, and I started like joining one of these groups, and a gentleman that lived near the house that I'm in now. He was growing and he was selling also. So I would invite him over. I'd buy some. We'd sample. He'd look at my grow. He'd give me some tips. All right, you should do this. Oh man, you got really good sun. All right, do this. And so I take those advice, leaf stripping, all that stuff. Um, and then I did. He's like, dude, you should really get on Instagram. I hate to try to bust your chops here, but you should really think about reconsider. Yeah, I don't know. But finally, I did, and just that in person, looking at things plus learning online, it was like, just lighter fluid to the fire. It was a burning desire I had to learn, but
Nice.
it was limited by knowledge, by this, by that. But once, I don't know, I could even use the internet. So many different things I could have learned, but it's like Instagram just turned the lights on and made me realize there's so many people out here growing. It was incredible because you thought it's just me, it's just a couple guys. And so once you realize that it's a whole nation of people out there growing together and sharing ideas, that's when my progress just you know, skyrocketed.
That's crazy. I mean,
But
I
yeah,
have a
shout out to that
similar.
guy, the dude Francis.
Right on.
Hope I hope he's well. He's a wild guy, but I hope he's still doing well.
Nice. Well, if Francis listens to this, then he helped inspire you.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's so crazy because yeah, I feel like it was like the secret grow club forever until like as soon as you get introduced to one of these larger communities like the Instagram community or even like the different Reddit communities, I feel like there's like just so many more people growing than you even expected, and that's definitely I feel like the shared information is definitely the biggest learning curve that I've had as well. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. So before we had done the like what was your biggest learning experience from a setback? So what would be your biggest learning experience from a success?
Um, I would say maybe making my own seeds, doing the STS reversals, learning the difference between an STS pollination and a regular male pollination. My first pollination was with a reversal.
Oh
So
wow.
that's kind of what I kind of had based. I did my research and I whatever else. So I kind of I did the whole thing and I reversed a couple plants and I was always like, all right, this is some pollen, but man, it's not as much as I thought it would be. I thought these things would, and then I started working with males and how much pollen, the difference in the amount of pollen they were kicking off and different things like that. But
Yeah.
just creating, looking at different mothers and the value of a pheno hunt. They're not giving you 10 seeds or 15 seeds just because they want you to have 15 keepers. You got to sift through and find that one that really speaks to you. So I think just breeding and making your own seeds so you can pop. All right, let me pop 20 today.
Yeah.
Let me pop 25 today. And be real specific about who I keep. Just having that ability, I think, it affects you differently than when you're counting. So like, all right, I just paid $200 for these 10 seeds. All right, that's $20. That's $20. All right, I can't waste these. I can't cull them. I just spent $20 for this seed. You
Yeah.
know, so it's different when it's like, all right, I have hundreds of them. Throw a handful in and let's see what happens.
Yeah, the value of seeds changes when you do your first pollination because you have like you sift through them and you're like, this is more seeds off of this tiny little plant than I've ever purchased in my entire life.
100%.
And and they're worth how much? It's a kind of a glass shattering moment. So like are you then so it sounded like before you were counting the seeds as each one being worth a certain amount based on like how it divided out based on how much you spent per pack. And it,
Absolutely.
so I would assume then that you were only popping a couple at a time.
Sure. I was very, and everything was a keeper. Like if it grows slow, all right, well, I'm going to grow it slow. If it's wonky, well, I'm growing a wonky plant then.
For
I'm
sure.
taking it, whatever I pop, I'm taking it to the end. That's just how stubborn I am sometimes. But
Do you still only pop one or two out of a pack if you purchase it or get it as a testing or something, or do you just
no,
rip the whole thing open?
I. It depends on if I have just one pack. I'll at least try to pop half of it.
Okay.
Um, I'm going two. If it's regular seeds, I'm putting two in one cup to fight it out and see who grows better. If it's a lot
Okay.
more, sometimes I'll put three in one cup if I'm really feeling frisky. Like, all right, I'm gonna be strict today.
Right.
You know. Um, so it gives you that more population. Listening to guys like CSI and how much numbers they go, it's like, geez, I got to get my numbers up. I want to see more of what different things have to offer, and you can see it in real time. The first time you do it, it'll show you like, wow, it is something in doing 10 females as opposed to, all right, these are my best two females. You don't know. But when you have 10, it's like, I can kind of see where the line's going here. It's like, all right, here it is on the spectrum. You're down here and you're on the other end.
For sure.
So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I I think the first time I popped seeds, I only popped like one or two out of a pack, and it was just so like I was almost disappointed because I was just like this, like neither of these are showing me what I thought that they were
Yeah.
supposed to show based on the photos that the breeders are providing. And you realize after I did a little research, I'm like, well, so there's this thing called Phenohunting, and the phenotypic expression of the plant is going to change based on like not only the parameters of the grow, but also like what the genetic makeup of it is, and each seed is going to be different. And you look at that and you go, well, human beings are pretty unique and different. And it seems like cannabis is pretty similar with having a male and a female provide the donation for the genetics. And I guess you're gonna just have to search through a lot. So that's where I just started popping all the seeds from every pack because I was like, I don't like if I keep one or two around still, then like if those are the keepers and I don't find it in the first batch and I spent all that time when I could have just had a couple more plants shoved into the space, uh,
You might be onto something with that. I have a bit of hoarder in my nature, so I have to fight that instinct all the time to
I
not
get it.
keep those keep those little behind just in case.
Yeah, but
You know.
because it feels like the logic behind keeping it is what if those are the keepers, you know? And by that logic, at the same time, it almost makes more sense to hunt them all because if you're if you're looking for the keeper, then the goal would be to just to find it as soon as possible. And since you've been a tester and a pheno hunter, and you've also made your own seeds and then hunted through them afterwards, the time and effort it takes just to go from, let's just say, selecting a mother and a father plant or a mother and a donor plant, and then finding something that you're proud to say was a keeper of the entire process is, that's a year or more.
Oh,
And
and it always makes me not makes me laugh, but it always makes me like, whew, wow. When these guys are, there's different folks. They'll pump them out, you know, and like, wait, like, I guess if you have the right, just a huge facility and number, I guess it could be, but I obviously I'm nowhere near that level, so it's like it just logically, like, you grow it, you select it, it just takes time. Everything is months, not like, all right, it's months. You'll know if it's something. All right, get back with me next year. We'll see.
yeah,
So.
and I'm not sure about you, but I always flower out cuttings of plants. I never flower out the seed plant itself,
Oh,
just
really?
because. Yeah,
Nice.
because if there is any potential in the genetics to have any sort of different in morphology after a certain period in its life based on the hormonal kind of buildup, then I want to be as close to what I could then put into production as
Mm.
I can be for the initial search. So if I'm like hunting just from seed, and experienced this and heard this from other people. Like you may or may not have some sort of intersex traits show, or the morphology as well is going to be, it's more like that bifurcated morphology where as the plant grows, it produces two sets of auxiliary branches per node set, versus if you're growing like a clone, you get the kind of the epi form of like having
R-
one come after another on the stalk.
Right.
uh, and that also then affects the flower structure, because like, as I'm sure you've seen from a seed plant, if you just grow it and flower it, that top nug is also, it has the two nodes per nodal spacing, and it those tops can get huge. And then if you grow out the clone, all of a sudden, even if you don't top it, you're like, well, this flower structure is completely different. It's got a bit more of a foxtaily structure. The peak on it is taller, and the side auxiliary buds are like smaller. They're not as compacted, or maybe they're even better, and that's kind of where I've
Mm.
leaned towards just only flowering out clones rather than seed plants. And I'll keep the seed plant around for longer as a mother, as long as I'm up potting it. But then, eventually it never makes it to flower.
Gotcha, gotcha. Oh, that's interesting for sure. Yeah, no, I do know what you mean about that top cola, how it's always super heavy when it's from seed. Always got to make sure those suckers are near fans because
Hmm.
all too much especially that late summer run, next thing you know, you're cracking it open and it's bad news bears, and and it's
Yep.
like, wait, that was the main feast right there,
Yeah.
so that.
You're looking at it, especially if it's like a small plant. You're like,
Yeah,
man, that was like
they put
a
everything
quarter of
into
my
that
weight.
bud. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yep.
I'm getting better
Well,
with my clones, so who knows, I'll maybe start running some clones more frequently,
nice. What
in
is
the
your
future.
what's your cloning method?
I use cups. Like I have a clone dome and a mat, but I inside that dome I'll put them in like a rooting plug, and I'll
Okay.
use like a fast food cup, one of those like plastic cups with the lids,
Okay.
and I'll just kind of leave them in there and let them do their thing. But now my buddy Faded put me on. I started using the Athena gel, and man,
Okay.
it has made all the difference. I've tried
Really?
so many things, but that with just solid, you know, just solid practices of keeping it moist and not too wet, not too hot. Seems to be doing the trick. I don't know if I'm getting better. Maybe it's just right thing, right place, right time. I don't know if the gel is everything, my technique better, but uh, since I've been using it, my clones have been, you know, pretty good. So, knock on wood. Hopefully, it
Nice.
continues.
And are you using like the compressed peat plugs?
Yes.
Yeah.
The was it? The name escapes me now, but it's the ones on Amazon, Plug-in Roots or
Like Q-Hort or something, or uh, root
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 Riot.
riots.
That's the one
Yeah.
I had, Root Riot.
Cool. Yeah, those are
So,
those are great. I think like what's his name on Instagram? Clone Coach uses those, and or a couple other people I've known have used those. I've used them in the past, and they always seem to work. I don't know why. I just stick with like Rockwool now, or I've been using the little cocoa coins that Charquar put out. Like they're kind of
okay, okay,
like Jiffy pellets, but rather
right.
than with peat moss, they're with cocoa. Because I always grow in cocoa with hydro, so I like the like media in like media, and it sounds, since you're using like an organic based substrate, then I'm sure part of it's like sphagnum peat moss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got the P. It's probably about 50% soil, then the rest 25% cocoa. Broke up a couple cocoa bricks in there, and perlite. Lots and lots of perlite. Because
Nice.
I'm a chronic overwaterer. I don't know. I
So do you
kill them
mix
with
up your own
kindness.
soil?
Yes, definitely.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
Very cool.
Um, I've
What's your
tried
initial
using.
mix?
Um, Just a lot of I'll try to find like a farm, like a worm farm, and I'll get a lot of compost. The the soil basically the only problem with that is the fungus gnats, and that's where you got to break it in and kind of just work your solution or whatever through it. Um, but I've tried, it's all mixed in there. A fox farm. I've tried Bio 365. Um, so I kind of just everything just goes into a rolling bin, and I've been using this same soil 4 or 5 years now. So it's just keeping it in rotation.
So
Um,
do you like save the used soil and add it back into this mixing
yes,
barrel?
I have
Okay,
three big tubs,
cool.
A, B, and the stuff that's like the on deck circle. Basically, that's fresh dumped pots.
Okay.
I'll mix up. I'll add to the new stuff. I'll dry it down as dry as I can. I'll top the pot with DE because I'm always on the battle for the fungus gnats. So before
Mm.
I try to mix a soil, I'll try to kill everything that's there, dry it out. Um, Let that sit for a couple days in my basement. It dries it out pretty good. I'll mix that. Um, Use the Dr. Earth, the 444. Or I had Gaia Green at one point. When it ran out, I just went back to Dr. Earth. Um, and that's pretty much it. I add a little gypsum, add a little potassium sulfate, little powder, and that's pretty much it. I let it sit. It probably sits in each bin for 3 to 4 months, and it's just I periodically, maybe once every 2 months, I'll water it a little bit just to keep that. When I open it, the top is usually like sweating,
Okay.
so it has that. The everything's kind of. I could tell everything's kind of getting acclimated. Any leaf litter I'll put in there. I used to use a hand mix, and I know a lot of guys still swear by the hand mixer, but I believe in the power wash, the power tools. I have a paint mixer, and that thing has made all the difference. I get two batteries, and everything will be so fluffy and loamy and
Nice.
perfect. Because I think Fox Farm has the perfect soil. If you would ask me who has the perfect soil, I think Fox Farm. The problem is they're just expensive and it's fungus gnats. It's full of
Yeah.
freaking fungus gnats. But it is literally the perfect soil. It's so
Are you using
loamy
like
and
ocean forest or happy
ocean
frog
forest.
or okay,
Ocean forest, yeah.
cool.
It's just so, it's very nice and it's not clumpy, it's light, and that's what I try to model my soil after, that feel where
Nice.
you can just kind of just pick it up and it drops and it's not, too dusty and whatever else. So I
Do you
think
get
that's what I
any like mold blooms or anything in between mixings?
you said, do I add any?
Or do you get any like in the tub?
Yeah,
Like yeah.
you'll see some things growing in there, little especially on the top layer. Every so
Mm-hmm.
often when I add the water, I'll mix that top layer in. Add my mosquito bits on top. Um, that's when I'll put the neem, any type of neem, I'll put sprinkle on top just to deter any. Because the bugs, they sense it. They can sense where the good stuff is. I'm sure they sense the soil and everything else. So I just want to make it not an attractive option for them. I grow organic everywhere else, so there's plenty in the garden. I don't mow the lawn, so there's plenty outside for them that's not sprayed that they can enjoy. And I found that they leave the stuff that's sprayed alone.
Nice.
But
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, why path of least resistance, basically? Like
path of
why
least
fight it?
resistance. You're not gonna beat them all. Just go that way. Look at
Yeah.
all this.
Here, I'll put some tasty snacks out here
Yeah,
for you
exactly.
boys. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I don't like to spray anything. The only thing that I do spray and I spray heavily are like the entrances, like the windowsill or around my
Mm,
the vent to come in, like the exhaust vent. I'll spray like where it exhausts. Just you always the bugs, they're looking, especially in the winter, all that hot air is coming out. They're trying to get where the warm is. Everything is freezing and snow covered, whether it be
Do
a rat or freaking something else. They're,
yeah.
you know,
Do you exhaust your tent out of the house, out of the
I do
basement? Okay.
definitely, yeah.
Okay.
24/7, it's always on.
Okay.
It's always pulling. It's a 6 inch. When the guy I traded for is still the original thing I traded for. It was a commercial guy. He was closing a commercial, whatever. So he had like an 8 inch. It was a huge. It's probably like a 5 foot exhaust vent, but I still use it. I just run it on its lowest setting, and that's basically allowed me to still keep it going.
Well, okay. That's fascinating. I didn't I I always think like when it's a cold space to keep the room sealed just to try and keep that heat in. But if it
No, it'd
works, it
be too
works.
hot. Even in the
Oh.
winter, the HBS would it would still go over 90, probably
Oh
90.
wow.
It'd be really hot if that thing wasn't kicking.
What temp do you usually shoot for?
Um, I think I'm usually low 80s in the morning, and by afternoon it's probably up 87, 88. That's my sweet spot.
Okay.
I don't like when it gets too in the summer. It does get hotter than that. In the summer, it'll start out in the mid 80s, and by the end of the day it's probably up there 92, 93. So tops are roasting, baby. You could, so that's not, I don't grow my best flower in the summer.
Sure. That's
um
yeah, that's super hot.
it's hot, boy. I keep air moving. I keep it's blowing, but it's hot. It's nothing I can do. It is something I could do, actually. I could not be lazy and take out the HBS every summer.
Do you have like
And
another LED you could put in there?
I have an extra, no, it's a T5 that I have laying around, and I'm like, so when I do come up with an extra LED, then it'll be more tempting to like set it up. But now um I have two LEDs in my veg and LED and HPS in the flower. So
Um wow. Yeah, that's some hot temps. I'm just thinking about. Do you keep it pretty humid to try and like match the
in the
those hotter
summer,
temps?
yeah. In
Yeah.
the summer, it's humid, but that's where you run into those issues with those mega colas in the middle. No
Yeah.
matter how ventilated you get, when you're fooling around with that hot and it dips, the lights go off. That's where the trouble comes into play. A couple times I'm running down, opening the tent up, and just for that hour cool down when the lights go off, that's where the trouble comes into play. But you know, as a home grower, there's certain limitations that you have. You can't do. Well, I mean, you can do everything great, but it's more realistic that unless you're really spending the money on environment, and something's gonna suffer in the seasons. And for me,
Yeah.
my Achilles heel is that middle of summer, those random hot and humid days. But so it happens.
For sure. Um, so out of like your whole grow setup, what do you think is like the most important part to you, and in how you grow, and is there anything like unique about it?
I think the tea aspect is something that is maybe overlooked. I hear people say they do teas once a month. I hear people say they do teas every couple weeks. For me, a tea is just aerated water with a little banana peel. It doesn't have to be anything complex. I use I don't know if you heard of Shilajit. It's like
It sounds familiar, but I couldn't place it. What is that?
it's like it's supposedly like some rosin from the Himalayas. Basically has like a humic and fulvic. Basically, I
Okay.
add that to water. I'll use that, some banana peel, some Dr. Earth, and a little molasses, and it's an air stone. Each one goes in a gallon jug, and it just sits there.
Okay.
For 24 hours it bubbles. I think that makes a huge difference. You and I do that daily.
Do you
People,
add it? Do you add
hmm?
any like microbial consortiums or anything like that to promote the biology, or is it all just like a nutrient tea?
That's in the mix. Basically, I have like it's in a container of old Jacks. I've upcycled it, and it says flour mix, and it's recharge. I use recharge.
Okay,
That's my stuff for the microbes.
gotcha.
I've used Great White, Dynamico in the past, but in really nerding out and getting into the what's in this, what's in that, what am I paying for? I've come back to recharge. Like, wait a minute, they actually do have a pretty solid. It seems like it's pretty solid.
For sure.
Um,
I know a lot of people swear by it.
yeah, they swear by it. And it seems to work. That Great White is also another good one that but yeah, it's just a little dab will do you. It's so much. It's so little the amount that you need. Like literally, the faintest dusting on the water. It's a gallon each is in each gallon jug. Just the
Mhm.
faintest dusting will turn the water a color, and you know that's enough.
Nice. Yeah, I mean,
That
like as long as you're feeding them the sugar and those other all that other stuff that you're putting in the water is feeding them as well. And in most cases, you're just multiplying those numbers over that 24 hours.
yeah, I think that makes a huge, huge difference.
Nice.
That air and that water just the plants just they seem to like it.
Awesome, dude. I mean, that it sounds awesome. Let's see. I wanted to ask a couple more questions of you. And did you have any solid out time that you needed to get going by?
No,
No? All right, cool. So, I know that you are just a home grower. And I don't mean that as just a home grower. So let me rephrase that. So I know that you're a home grower, and I'm not sure. Do you have any commercial experience? Have you like toured any facilities, seen anybody else, like had any friends doing commercial grows
no,
or anything? No.
and you're right. Don't correct yourself, my friend. I am just a home grower.
Okay.
I think that's what I do. Yeah, I've gone. I went to Colorado once. I was actually trying to buy when I was in my home buying mode. I wanted to leave New York desperately. First thing I'm gonna do. I'm out of New York right away. I'm living in New York now, by the way. So I went to Colorado. I went to see a couple dispensaries. I went to see like facilities and different things, and I was blown away. And I don't do anything like that. I don't do anything like that is so technical, and you know I like to just I like it more natural, and I like to have the music, and I like to have the feel. I don't like anything feeling scientific. It is scientific, really, if you're thinking about it. You're doing plant science, but it's not.
Yeah.
A
But
couple of
as a hobbyist, you don't necessarily need to make it, to like the professional
right
scientific level
suckers want to
of
measure
scrutiny.
PPFD and EC and pH and light meter. I'm like, guys, the plants are fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
It's why we need all these meters and the solution and the what. So I think there's definitely a place for it. Don't get me wrong. It's like being a home cook. You still
Yeah.
want to go out to restaurants. You
Oh,
still want to you,
a
you
hundred
cook at home,
percent
yeah. But I still love going out for a nice restaurant. That's
for
how I
sure.
feel with the dispensaries. You cook at home and it's good, it's great. But you still want to go to a freaking steakhouse and get that top shelf or whatever, and see like, wow, these guys are really all right. This is what I can really aspire to here. This type of thing.
Yeah, it's like a
So I feel,
experience based
yeah,
association, I guess. Yeah, I get that. I mean, I love eating out, and I was classically trained as a chef, and I did that for like a decade before I got into the cannabis industry. So yeah, there's different things that I feel like we crave, and we not only crave like what we can do, but also like the what other people can show in the same category, just to experience it in different ways. So
right.
yeah, I totally understand that. But as a home grower, then, like, what would you want to see change in the cannabis industry overall? Like, let's just call the industry, from home growers to consumers to dispensaries to large commercials grows, and everything in between. What would you like to see?
I mean, I guess just, they take the restrictions away. I think it's silly that one state I can grow it, I can sell it, I can boutique it, I can do whatever I want. If I go 2 hours that away, now it's a different story. I think that's kind of like legal or not legal, okay or not okay. Let's come to an agreement.
Yeah,
And then the second thing that's the biggest rip is the Insta nonsense. As much as I praise and they've been the light that has opened, shine lights on whole industries that I didn't even know existed. They are all also, sometimes you get caught in the weeds, and next thing you know, you're banned or you're restricted. You're like, wait, what did I posted a plant pic? Like, wait, if that's what you're going by, then just you're gonna shut the whole thing. Like, what do you mean? I posted a marijuana picture. Of course I did. So
yeah,
it's like sometimes that is unclear, and then you ask a question. It's like, all right, let me going to AI and it's like all automated. It's not like a person you can reach out to that can use common sense on it. Um, but yeah, I think the community is based on Instagram, for better or for worse. You know,
yeah,
is Instagram a bust at this right now? That's kind of how it is. Yeah, there's other platforms, but they fizzle out. They seem to fizzle out. They seem to, all right, we're all gonna go back to X. All right, everybody on X. That'll last a week. They'll
yep.
all be back. You know what I mean? All right, I'm going to freaking Threads. Fuck it. Pardon my language.
No,
And
it's all
it's
good.
like, all right, yeah, we're back. Like, oh, back on Insta, huh? What's up, buddy?
Yeah,
For better or for worse, they're the overlords right now. So
yeah. It is unfortunate. I feel like just the not only the stigma, because I feel like the stigma keeps people in the mindset of wanting to cover up and hide away the it feels like we're like the dirty little secret that the different parts of America doesn't want to necessarily talk about in some aspects, as the cannabis industry, where it's this semi legal or quasi legal ambiguousness of having states' rights be able to say it's okay, and still at the same time having federal agencies like the DEA continue to prosecute people, and it does just seem like an overall weird farce and facade that should it needs to become more clear, because it does then make it so that if companies are operating in the United States, like Instagram or Facebook, even, as I guess they're all kind of part of the same thing, they they will continue to shut down people that are breaking those federal laws that they're beholden to make
well,
sure.
hold on a sec. Breaking those laws slash aren't paying them.
Right.
Because if you want to sow some of the stuff that's suggested, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, this is a drug. Like, I don't mind, but like, you're saying I can't post a picture, but promoting the sex app, the OnlyFans, like, wait a minute. Like,
Yeah.
you'll sell me you can buy the weed from us, you can market, but you can't, if it's free, oh, you're not paying us? All right, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I think that's where people run into it, is they can do fine if they're doing it on their own. But once Insta gets wind that you're selling, giving out Cash App, doing any type of foolishness, that's when they start shutting down.
Yep.
And they have access to everything. They know the keywords, people, money, any money sign or money that money. How much? How much? Damn, I got shut down. What I do?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're posting pictures again. Like, dang. But on the end, oh yeah, you were also selling this or selling seeds or clones, and you weren't paying Instagram any revenues, you know.
Yeah. I
So
mean, I
it's
know of one of the moderators that I'm a moderator with on Reddit, on the craft marijuana subreddit. He uses Instagram to promote his seed sales, and he pays them monthly for ads, and they don't shut down his account because he's paying them. And so it's definitely a pay to play in certain aspects, and some people can direct people directly to cannabis seed sales through Instagram's
forget about cannabis seeds. It's
marketing.
direct to herb, direct
Yeah,
to flower. Like,
yeah.
wait a
I
minute,
think
this
as
is
long
a
as you're paying for it,
as
they don't
long
have a
as you're
problem.
paying, baby.
Yep,
That's it.
yep,
It's as long as you're paying, you're good to go. And that's the asterisk that they don't like to mention. They want
for
to say,
sure.
"Oh, marijuana." No, say what it really is. You pay us or you don't do this here.
Yep,
It's like the old drug dealer from the block. If you're not paying my freaking piece, you're not going to do this business here. And it's kind of now the digital, it's a digital black hand
yeah,
in a sense.
yeah.
So
That's a great analogy, because it is like definitely it's like the territory control, paying for
sure,
protection almost.
this is my neighborhood. You want to
Yeah.
sell here? You pay me a piece of all your profits.
Wow. Yeah. Instagram's just a bunch of gangsters.
Just the big pimp.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate because you're right. It is like the community that people keep coming back to, because the the opportunity to connect with a wide swath of people
Right.
from the industry is so great. And like, there's a fair amount of people that'll respond to your DMs and stuff that you might have trouble finding in any other way, that can open up the opportunities that someone like even myself have used to get into the industry, into certain spaces. And it's unfortunate they then go around and criminalize those who are not able to pay the piper, so to speak.
Because it's literally everything is right there. It's like your resume is there. They
Yeah,
can peek into your actual real life if they watch your stories. Hey, what's this guy about? Let me see the real him, not the
yeah,
dressed up, whatever. Let me see what he's really about in 2 seconds of time. Then it's like, all right, I'll answer him back. Let's see. All right. You
exactly.
know? So
Yeah, but now even with AIs, you don't know if they're real or not. it's
that's true,
it's fucking weird.
But
There's
then
too many
again,
bots.
I remember back in the day we used to make fun of our parents, like, you got tricked by that old prince in Africa, huh? You rascal. Now it's like, what? We're gonna be there. Like, damn it, that AI tricked me again. I thought
Yep.
that was real.
It's so and so's
Whoops.
fifth or sixth account create
Yeah,
recreation.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, so I have just a few more questions, and then
Sure.
we're gonna get to like a couple of sort of wrap up questions. So how do you think growers can protect ourselves from the future? So, like even with what you're saying, where you'd like to see kind of just more transparency in terms of how things go with legalization. Like, let's make up our minds on this. Let's not have it be so ambiguous any longer. So, like with that in mind, and if the ambiguity continues, how do you think that like home growers like yourselves should protect themselves?
Uh, I mean, the answer is not going to be popular. It's not going to be sexy. Um, you know, I think the best way is to be insulated in other markets and to be, have that be your passion. But what I mean, how highly do you think of the farmer who makes your corn? How highly do you think of the farmer who makes, your Brussels sprouts? What other crop do you really think of the farmer?
Mm-hmm.
Farmer is forgotten about. Who the heck cares about, who the person putting their hands in the dirt? They're not rich and famous, and so if it's that you're after, then make sure your personality is you tell funny jokes, or if you're a lady, you're really growing and dance, whatever it is, but have an other niche that because it's growing like who grows the most tomatoes, who's the most popular tomato grower. Once it becomes legal, it'll be like a farm crop, and
Hmm.
farming is not so sexy. So I think people can just do what they like. Make sure it's something you like. If you like to grow, do that. No one can, an organic garden, it's like your organic garden. It makes you feel good. You can taste the difference. Your family's happy about it. What else do you need past that? If you're doing it for the fame and the riches, I don't know. I don't know. It might be a tougher of a go, but if you're doing it just for your health benefits, you're gonna be happy. If you're doing it for cost benefits, you're gonna be happy. If you're doing it for your family, you're gonna be happy. But as long as you keep those intentions pure, I think, sky's the limit.
For
Insulate from
sure.
what? You're insulating yourself from costs. If the cost of a pound goes up 4x, that don't mean shit for you. The
Yeah.
cost goes down. Oh, I can't make no money off this. Doesn't mean anything for you. You're either way. It's kind of like, yeah, that's good. You know, so
So it sounds like keep growing at home. That's how
keep
we
growing at
protect
home.
ourselves.
Live within your
Yeah.
means and just kind of don't, just not be affected by the little things. You don't want Instagram to, their one policy change has now affected your whole life. And now, you know, that's, that's tough. It's a tough out.
It is. Well, no, I mean, I think that's a great answer because, I feel like home growing is definitely the way forward with a lot of aspects of the cannabis culture and the community around growing. And I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast is to make sure that people know that everyone can grow and it's something that's available in a whole bunch of different scenarios. And yeah, like people like yourself, where you've had experiences indoor and outdoor and this and that, and at this location and that location. It's hopefully it inspires more people to just want to grow at home and give it a try.
Yeah, no matter what you produce, it's gonna be you're gonna be happy. Obviously, the
Hmm.
more you put into it, if you like doing the thing, that helps a lot. But just knowing it's something you created and you put your time into, it's gonna be a good result. I think everyone should try it. Everyone should do it. Food
Absolutely.
is good for the soul.
Absolutely. 100% on that. So, knowing what you know now, about all the different growing aspects that you can, put that pin on your badge of, I am a grower with all of these accomplishments. What advice would you want to give yourself before you ever put that first seed in the dirt?
Huh? Slow and steady wins the race. You know, um,
That's great.
I think sometimes you get caught up in the rushing. I used to be a stickler on times. All right, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. It's been 10 weeks. Time to cut. I don't do times anymore. Forget about weeks. That's all depends. It's phenotypes. It could be anything. You could get an early finisher. Suppose this one wants to finish in 49 days. And you're taking it, or suppose this one wants to finish 75 days. It just let the plant do its thing, slow and steady. You're gonna grow it. You're gonna make a mistake. It's best to make the mistake, before you
Hmm.
grow too big and you ruin a whole room. You ruin a whole. It's good to kind of get your feet under you. You crawl, then you walk, then you're running. A lot of times on Insta, it's like I just want to run, baby, run,
Yeah.
baby, run.
Oh,
You get guys going high octane, and then it's just crash and burn. You know,
that's great advice though, because I feel like, that applies to so many different aspects of life. It makes me think of cooking again, where, you ask the chef, hey, chef, how long until that's done? And he looks at you and he goes, it'll be done when it's done. And, like with flowers too, I've even heard people calling it, I'm cooking it, like I'm letting it cook. in
Yep.
those last couple of weeks. Like just let those trichomes ripen, let those calyxes swell up, let that expression of color come through in the senescence, and yeah, I feel like you got to be patient sometimes, and some people, they'll. I feel like there's the common thing of always being like 2 more weeks, right? Like just give it
Right.
2 more weeks, or of course, a little more CalMag, but the 2 more weeks thing is I feel like it's a pretty good advice for any new grower, because like even something like someone like myself who has some experience growing for a little while now, and I still have trouble sometimes getting that perfectly ripe bud, and I don't even think necessarily it's always something that is always going to happen. Like I feel like if you have some improper practices, whether it be let it like too high of heat, or not dropping the temperatures or the humidities towards the late flowering
Oh
stages,
yeah.
you can really extend that flowering time and really make it so that it wants to just keep producing new bracts with or new calyxes with more white pistils, and it wants to keep growing so that it can accept pollen, because like the whole process of its life is just to accept pollen, to
Reproduce. Yeah.
make seeds and reproduce. So if you give it, if you continue to provide all that energy to produce those parts of the plant, then it's just going to keep going and keep going. And so, but also it will stop at some point. And that's also, I feel like, where a lot of people get this huge learning curve of how to taper down those plant responses towards the end of flower, and get a better senescence response, so that you can get those nice Instagram worthy bud shots where it's all the hairs are orange, there's no new growth, everything's colored out and triked out, and it's just beautiful frosty flower. And so I feel like the idea of slow and steady, and just don't rush yourself, give yourself time, and you'll learn from everything that you do, and take that into the next one, is just stellar advice.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. It's the essence of life. You gotta sometimes just stop and smell the roses.
Smell the flowers.
Smell the flowers. See what you got going on, and just appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, well, I just got now some wrap up questions for you that are going to be kind of my little ubiquitous cannabis podcast questions that I feel like everyone asks, but I always feel as though they're worth hearing, because it's something that almost every grower can relate to. So, what's your favorite strain of all time that you've grown and that you've smoked, whether or not you grew it?
I'm gonna have to say Mac One.
For sure.
I have plenty of my buddies give me crap for that answer, and it is what it is. I like what I like. What can I say? I'm a cookie monster.
Hey, I mean, if you like cookies, Mac One is one of those cookies that is just, it's up there with like, like the foreign cut or something, where it's just got that uniqueness to it, where it's such good smoke. It's creamy and smooth and
Yeah,
potent. Yeah.
people say it's boring, but call me, but maybe I'm just a boring guy. What can I say?
Hey, dude, Coca-Cola is boring if you think about it,
Exactly.
but I
They
will
haven't
love
changed
a
the
cold
recipe.
Coke with a burger,
100%.
right? All right, so I love that Mac One. Like for the longest time, that was my most sought after strain, because it was something that, even to find like the rosin or the flower, was elusive, because only a few people had the cuts, and so you'd find it on the in the rec market somewhere, and you'd buy like 3 grams or something, spend all your money on a few dabs,
Hmm.
or a few chunks of nice looking flower. But I totally agree. I think Mac One is definitely at least on the top 5 list for most people, if they've tried it grown really well.
100%.
Yeah. All right. So who's your favorite breeder of all time? Whether or not this is due to the flower that you've had smoked of it, or that you've seen of it produced by other people, or whether it be just due to the the growing properties that you've experienced?
I would say the breeder that's probably, I think Cap is up there, but I'd probably go Thug Pug for that next spot. Just a breeder, when he, the type of funky, nasty stuff that I'll get out of that stuff, and classics like Peanut Butter Breath. Um, I think he's always got something in the mix, whether it's that, a lot of stuff you even see other people, they'll take the meat breath or whatever else. They'll F2, they'll make whole family lines off of just that meat breath, just so I think he has a lot of classics in there.
Yeah, it's like his genetics have made other people fortunes almost.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's a great breeder. I remember one of the first places that I worked at in the commercial market. We had this cut of peanut butter breath that was just like our staple, and we grew it every round, and it was just so good. It was.
Oh
I do
yeah.
miss that, and
Oh
I
yeah.
I haven't ever grown out meat breath. I know that I've gotten a clone from someone, and I just never got around to flowering it out because, like right as I was about to, I had to move to a new spot and just cleared everything out because it was untenable to take it all with me. But maybe again in the future that can happen. I but yeah, Thug Pug's he's an amazing breeder.
Yeah, he gets a lot of he just, gets it. Whatever his selection is, that eye for that male or whatever it is, he just has that something that makes it pretty classic when he does do something.
Yep. I oh, what's it? His the mail that he uses for a bunch of stuff is called Studley Spew, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's it's so funny. I love the idea of naming a male plant just that you're keeping around because it's like I feel like everything else just kind of leans towards like a female naming process or using
Sure, and I
yeah
think
like
he was one of the first
traditional.
guys to do that.
I don't know of anybody else that did it before him for sure, but I know of people that have done it after him.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Myself included.
Yeah, absolutely. I have as well. It's a yeah, it's a funny story
It
for
only
another
makes
time.
sense once you see it. Like, oh, that is right. I might as well give him a manly, studly, kind of, just a boisterous name, just to, so masculine he is.
Yeah, exactly. That's hilarious. So what was your most memorable cannabis related experience, whether it be like smoking or just other cannabis hijinks?
Um, I mean, I guess just being able to smoke it in different places, grow it and smoke it in, now that you have a house and it's kind of like, as a kid, you kind of just smoke it wherever you can, you didn't really get to plan too much, but I guess now growing it and kind of getting to plan and package and go everywhere with it, if I want to go on, to the mountains, it's in a responsible fashion, you're doing everything there or, um, I have another trip to Hawaii planned, and something about smoking weed in Hawaii is, I don't know. I think I haven't been since 2019, but I'm planning to go back this next summer. But something about just smoking weed there is like, it doesn't matter if you're by the beach, if you're, in the mountains somewhere. It's like, just that spirit, just that relaxation. Like you really get that true relaxation, the aloha spirit. So
Nice.
probably be doing one of those, hiking, paying off one of the guys, doing it on the zip lining, all kinds of crazy stuff I like to get into.
For
But
sure. And I feel like I know the answer already to this, but what's your favorite method of consumption?
uh, joints. I'm strictly a joints, white paper. No tobacco whatsoever. No, just they're inefficient. Don't get me wrong. They're
But they're tasty.
oh yeah, you're gonna blow through a lot of material. But if you're trying to conserve, I definitely say grab a bowl and make it last. But when you're growing it, you can roll it as fat as you want. There's nothing better than a big old stinky joint.
Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't smoked a joint in a couple years. I just stick to a volcano, a vaporizer, or like one of their handheld vaporizers. Just I was
Oh yeah, your lungs will thank you.
yeah, I was hacking up a lung for sure. So
Oh yeah.
I definitely had to cut back on that. But I was also, a smoker of cigarettes for a decade or more, and that probably did a
Ah,
little number on my lungs where the cannabis is just exacerbating that experience. But yeah, I do love joints. I mean, I also was a huge like blunt connoisseur for the
mm.
longest time. But yeah, joints. I've seen so many videos on your stories where you just have like big old finger joints that are just dripping with resin, and it always just kind of makes me salivate a little bit.
Oh yeah, man. I definitely love me. Yo, one of the most resinous strains I ever grown was one that you gave me, a
The
strawberry
strawberry
guava and
guava
military
military chocolate.
chocolate. Woo!
Yeah.
Dude, that ruined it ruined a couple sleeves. You know, you have the little
Oh,
filters. Man, that was some like I know if I want to break that over a joint, it has to be a cold day. It has to be
okay.
at least 30 degrees in my garage. I don't even think to break that out. Or my hands are gonna be stuck to literally everything.
That's
You know,
crazy,
that sucker is amazing. So I'm
man.
definitely can't wait to grow some more of that stuff out.
I hope I still have some seeds. I lost so much in the move. I'll have to see if I can find some. But yeah, that
Oh
was
yeah, I have a couple on hand. I actually F2'd it. I
oh shit.
want
I
to
might need
grow
to get
out.
some of those back from you to continue the line and put it back
Yeah,
to the military
I
chocolate.
crossed, I reversed meat breath to a couple.
Mm,
I did some funky stuff to it, but yeah, it was definitely one of those resin monsters. I couldn't believe it. Could
yeah,
not believe it.
the strawberry guava itself was a bag seed from a strawberry guava plant that I had harvested outdoors at a facility, and we found the seed in it, and it turned out to be female. And I didn't even, that was one of the last times I grew plants from seed and flowered the seed plant, and I didn't save a cutting of it. And I just went straight with the pollination of it, and then just broke up the buds and smoked it as I was pulling seeds out, and it was so tasty. I kind of like
Dude,
regret doing that.
dude, that's how the best strains. That's how it goes. You know, it's
It
just the
is.
happenstance. Not like it was intentional. Though, just
Oh,
I got some seeds there. All right,
it was the worst structure plant too. It was like
bangers.
it was spindly, and like the buds were just like these, solid stacks of calyxes that were maybe 3 inches long growing, and it had like no structure to it whatsoever, but it was just fully resined out, and it tasted exactly like strawberries and bananas. And so I was kind of devastated that I lost that, but you know live and learn. And I'm glad that that was like such a memorable experience for you as
Yeah,
well.
dude. Now that you say that, I'll have to next time I'm going through that bag, I'll put some together for you for
Oh
sure.
dude, that would be awesome. I will grow those out and hopefully save something this time.
Definitely, man. It's always good when you think one got away and it's a buddy has some seeds somewhere. Like, oh, I still have some seeds of that little fucker. All right,
Yeah.
nice.
Oh,
So yeah,
absolutely.
it's
It's I feel like that's the best part about sharing too, and another point in the industry where people could maybe take a little pointer of just getting some of these genetics out to more people just so that they're there if they need them.
definitely. I think right now everyone's still kind of in the I'm gonna hit it rich. This is a gold mine. You know, once they get their heads out of the sand and realize it's for sharing, for community, for love, not for these big capitalistic plans. You know, this is not that. You know, you want to do that, go to Bitcoin. You know, this is a plan. You know, this is something deeper than just a quick little hoarding thing or flipping or whatever. It's like it's deeper than that. I think.
I agree 100%. Yeah, that's a great point and a great way to end this on. It's cannabis is deeper than a lot of people give it credit for, and we should all just respect the plant a little more and hope that we get a little more respect as a community if we get people to stop with the stigma.
Yeah, 100%. It was good
Great.
talking to you, brother.
Yeah, it was great talking to you as well. I really appreciate your time, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this conversation.
Copy that. Hope so.
Right on.